Welcome to On the Chain. This is Chip with co-host Jeff. How you doing, Jeff?
Good to see you guys.
Always with the good backdrop. And tonight we've got a really sweet guest. We have none other than Antonio Brasse. He's the CEO, co-founder of BlockQuake. And you're probably asking yourself, what is BlockQuake? It's the hottest new exchange in town, and it's making some big waves. So we're going to jump into it. What's up, Antonio?
Hey, doing well. Glad to be on the show.
Yeah, great. And let's jump in. We have so much to cover tonight. Let's see if we can get it done. Let's get it started. Let's go, guys.
Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
And as we get started, right before we get started, I'll throw it over to Jeff. But guys, if you have any questions while we're going, this is an interactive show. You guys know, just drop your comments in there and we'll post some questions to Antonio. And Jeff, take it away.
Yeah, meanwhile, today's show is brought to you by permission.io. And you guys know how that goes. You know how all those ads pop up, Google, Facebook, everywhere you go, there are these ads and they're taking your data, they're monetizing off your data, making money off of you. You have to watch the ad, they make the money. Permission.io is changing that. They're actually allowing you to take control of your own data and actually monetize your data by earning the ASK token, ASK token. Every so often they'll say, hey, do you want to watch this video? You say yes, you watch the video, you start earning ASK token. It's amazing. For some people, it's the first time they've ever got engaged with the crypto space and hodling crypto. It's amazing. You can hodl it, you can spend it. It's a great way to get engaged for the very first time. And for all those who have been passionate and involved in the crypto space for a long time. So check it out, permission.io. It's in the description. And welcome, Antonio. It's great to have you on tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you. So there's so much to cover, but I was thinking, why don't we just jump into, just for people who may not know, can you just give them sort of an overview of what BlockQuake is and, what your vision is? Because you guys just launched a few weeks ago.
Correct. Yeah. So we launched just about 2 weeks ago. BlockQuake is a fintech company where our first product kind of into fintech and crypto is a cryptocurrency exchange. So we launched it globally, truly globally. So about 140 something countries. People can jump in right now and, KYC and onboard, deposit, trade. We've got essentially 6 core pairs right now. It'll be a scale up with the pairings. So, Bitcoin, ETH, Litecoin, Tether, dollar, and all crossed against each other. So you've got Bitcoin, ETH, Litecoin against the dollar, Bitcoin, ETH against Tether, and then we've got Tether dollar, which we think will be a big hit as some time passes. And we're looking to add probably another 50 more in less than 2 months and be past 100 by the end of the year. We've got commitment from our liquidity providers already on the additional pairs. They just wanted to take a better safe than sorry approach and just scale in, a couple dozen pairs at a time and build it up. So that's the approach. We'll probably be onboarding a number of peers really soon that everyone's really interested in. Other than that, longer term plans is to bring in interest earning, staking capabilities, as well as additional banking relationships to expand how many actual fiat currencies we can hold deposits for, as well as allow trading for. Right now, we've got 6 fiats that we can hold deposits in: dollar, Canadian, euro, pound, yen, Aussie dollar. Those trading pairs are part of a batch later that'll be there. But we're looking to keep growing this ecosystem and essentially in the crypto space provide all the typical financial services you might expect at a bank.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, rolling out with some of those fiat pairs, like, the euro. I mean, basically, you're pretty global. So a lot of our audience is outside, North America, either in Europe or, in Asia. We have a lot of fans in Australia, New Zealand area. So this is good news. So basically, it's game on for everybody, right? I mean, it's ready to go.
It is. It is. I know people looking at it at first glance 6 pairs, but that's gonna grow rapidly really soon.
Now it's interesting, in reviewing your website and getting, into your platform, there's obviously a distinction between what you're building and what's already out there. And one of the things that you've highlighted is liquidity, having a liquidity provider. The other part is, building a trading platform built for traders by traders. I think that those are two main, major distinctions. But if you were to single out like that one, key distinction of BlockQuake from all these other platforms that are out there, be it Coinbase or Uphold or others, what would that be?
Wow. My mind went to my mind went to ease of use actually. Yes, we have
I like that
liquidity,
too.
security, a lot of compliance stuff in there that we're probably going to talk about. But all those things are happening behind the scenes, and the customer doesn't necessarily see it, right? So on the ease of use part, I really like the fact that we brought a lot of people in to help design this that never traded anything in their life, right? It had to make sense to them. And I'm proud of how easy it is to navigate. It's got everything that somebody wants and needs, but there's a lot of white space there, and people can navigate it really easily. I bring up the story often that we had a real life test case where somebody in our network that's retired already, never traded a thing at all in their lives, got on the platform, signed up, KYC'd, deposited money, and traded, no help from us. So, I was glad to see that happen.
That's big. Yeah. I mean, ease of use is big too, especially when we're looking at more people flooding in daily into the marketplace. So who are some of your partners? 'Cause I know you got some impressive partners as well, not only on the liquidity side, but also on the hot storage side, which I think is very key, and especially in the transparency side.
Yeah. So liquidity, we have block fills currently plugged in. For a lot of people that follow institutional liquidity and the type of stuff, they're one of the bigger names in liquidity providers in crypto, and we're working with a number of others to get them in eventually in the same class. So that's why we're able to say like, hey, we've got global liquidity on the jump immediately. So they're handling that. On the fiat banking side of it, we've got Prime Trust, and we're also talking to other banking partners too. But currently, Prime Trust, who works with Signature and other U.S. banks. So when people put their fiat in us, no matter which one of the 6 currencies, it's actually sitting in a U.S. bank, and you've got that certain level of FDIC insurance is kind of behind it. We think that's going to be a big thing for the international audience, particularly emerging markets that want to get into crypto, want to hold fiat in some of these exchanges, but they want to make sure that fiat's sitting in a relatively secure country, stable country. And on the hot wallet side, we're working with Fireblocks, who for a lot of people that don't know, they're a wallet infrastructure provider. Hot wallets, they're actually part owned by Fidelity Bank and Bank of New York. Of which we have a lot of old coworkers that work at a lot of these places. They use MPC technology to secure their infrastructure. The short of that means is nothing's unhackable, but it becomes really difficult when you have to hack 2, 3, 4 different parties to access something, because you need permission from all of them, and you need to know who all those parties are too. So it's great having them in there on the back end. And then on the front end, we actually mandate app-based 2FA, not SMS or email-based 2FA, app-based 2FA. It's required. We didn't even think about making SMS or email 2FA an option. I know way too many people that have been SIM hacked and lost crypto because of that. So so we put that in there too to help protect the customer on the front end with their account as well. On the compliance side, transparency side, I feel like we're working with so many vendors. Solidus Labs and Chainalysis, we've got them on the compliance side where, Chainalysis handles know your transaction stuff. So essentially crypto AMLing. And then Solidus Labs, they look at market surveillance, market manipulation. A lot of these things are required for many of the registrations and licensing that we're pursuing. And we do full global KYC. and Prime Trust also handles that for us. They use standard banking KYC protocols. I know we've all, there's a lot of bills out there right now where everything kind of comes back to KYC if you want to operate long term. So that's been on our mind.
And global KYC, that's definitely key. There was a comment here from K Hud. He said, "Can you sleep at night, or do you worry about hackers?" Obviously, we saw what just happened to Polygon using the Binance chain.
Yeah. So I'd say I can definitely sleep at night, but you always have to worry about hackers. My past career, I spent many years as a technology auditor as well, and you think about cybersecurity and other technology controls all the time, and anytime you come out with something new, someone will figure out how to hack it. So you need to always stay on top of it, and just get some sleep for sure, but just make sure you've got the right people in place, always paying attention and figuring out how to stay ahead.
Yeah. And hey, there's another follow-up to, well, not to that topic, but XRP Panic is saying Antonio with all those abbreviations after his name, and you've got a lot of them, right? So normally you get 2 or 3. You are well certified. What are all the abbreviations after CPA?
Sure. So after CPA, I've got so CIA is not, I'm not with any intelligence agencies. So certified internal auditor, and then CFSA certified financial services auditor. CISA is the certified information systems auditor, so that's the technology audit designation. And CAMS is kind of the big thing everyone's talking about right now. So certified anti-money laundering specialist. So I've got a background, and our team has a background in pretty much all the regulatory risk stuff people are talking about. We've had a couple of people joke around with us that we're probably the most regulatory aware team out of all the crypto exchange teams that are out there. So,
your co-founder Sam is too, right? Isn't he he goes back into the whole compliance issue? So you guys got you brought a lot of strong stuff. That was one of the things I remember when I covered you guys in a video 2 years ago. You just really talked about going the compliance route, like doing it right. And this is where a lot of people, they rush to launch, and I probably took you a little bit longer. But again, getting it out there and doing it right, and we see that all across the board. We see that with Flare, a DeFi network that's just been, they just they're going to launch a Canary style live network so they can potentially see if it can get hacked, right? I mean, that's what they're really doing. So when you want that regulatory route, and so how do you guys know sort of the ins and outs? Like, you have sort of a leg up that other exchanges either don't know about, or they got to try to find that person where you have that team internally. So what are you able to navigate a little bit easier than, let's say, some of the other exchanges out there?
Well, we took the approach to begin with that all existing regulations apply. And because I used to work in audit, a lot of former colleagues or friends, they work on regulatory matters in financial services, or they work with different regulators now. Maybe they took an audit job over there, and we have candid conversations, and a lot of it's around, for as much as it's possible, all existing regulations do apply, and it just hasn't been enforced yet. I remember having that conversation almost 3 years ago with somebody right by the seaport here in Manhattan, and the crackdown took longer than I expected, but we're seeing it now. Mm-hmm. So when we started this in 2018, it was just top of mind. Let's assume this. At the end of the day, as an exchange or virtual asset service provider, you're providing financial services. So, we just took that approach that whatever we have to do when we're in banking and insurance, a lot of that stuff is going to come over to this space. And I joke around, like I have like my little mini Bible of 100 pages of regulations that might apply to this space. So, there's a lot out there, globally speaking.
Yeah, and then a little bit later, we're going to jump into some current stuff that's going on right now. Like, if you talk about regulatory stuff, we've seen Library get attacked, LRBY, that's Kaufman's venture, and they're a decentralized video platform. And then, of course, none other than Ripple has been, the SEC dropped a lawsuit on them in December of 2020. Let's hear some inside scoop on that. Like, what do you think's going on with that case? How do you think it's going to end up? Let's hear some of your thoughts.
Sure. So these are just my opinions.
Yeah, not
I
the
haven't
opinion.
I haven't talked to anyone on the inside regulatory wise about it, but and kind of taking a step back, I know there are a lot of people that feel strongly about XRP or not, or other cryptocurrencies. Like us as an exchange, our perspective is to be agnostic, and we're there to try to hopefully list everything that's in demand. So with XRP, like my personal opinion is based on my own knowledge and working experience when I had a 9 to 5 is that it's I don't see it as a security token. I kind of think of it as a commodity. I've had this conversation with people that I'm more compared to oil than Tesla stock, because people often bring up that Ripple and its executives own over 50% of the token supply, right? But because XRP and the ledger itself are completely independent of the company Ripple, it's more like oil and OPEC. Like just because OPEC controls all the oil doesn't make oil a security, right? So that's the perspective I'm looking at this with. I mean, who knows what can happen with this? But I don't know what Ripple's current argument is, but I think like going down that road where the ledger and the token itself really have nothing to do with the company. The company's trying to build around it.
Yeah.
But if Ripple wasn't around tomorrow, XRP and the ledger continue on. I mean, what I think could happen is you might kind of see a middle of the road thing where there's either a verdict or a settlement where everyone kind of decides, okay, maybe it could have been a security in the past, but ownership has been decentralized so much that it isn't now, right? You could probably see something like that happen, where Ripple and the executives sell off enough and they're below 50%, give up the amount of validators they control as well to fall below that threshold. So I think that, I mean, we could eventually see it play out like that, where like not everyone's happy, but but you get to continue and move forward.
Nice. That's an interesting analogy right there.
A really good analogy. Yeah, I mean, it's thinking about it from a regulator's perspective. So the way you're thinking about it, compliance, regulation. Everyone else is looking at it from the outside in. You can look at it almost from the inside out, and that's really important. Now, how do you think? So you have this case with the SEC. SEC seems to be fumbling the ball a little bit. But how critical is this case from your estimation for the crypto space at large? We're always looking at, from our perspective, and even Ripple's head attorney is saying, hey, this is really the SEC v crypto, because whatever the outcome of this case is, that's how we're going to be reflective to crypto. But now, so we still have this big case active. But now we also saw this infrastructure bill that was just passed. Granted, it still has some more hurdles to go through, but they just crammed crypto into it. How do you balance these things out? And what do you think the potential outcome is going to be for crypto?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because whether it's the case going on or the infrastructure bill or many of the remarks coming out of different heads of agencies, it really comes down to providing clarity, and that's what we're all of us in the industry, we're asking for, just providing clarity. Let's get there first, so at least we know what our next move should be. With the infrastructure bill, for those that are watching that don't know, the big sticking point is really around like what's the definition of a broker, and that has not been cleared up. It ended up passing the Senate, where it's still gray area, and everyone's worried that later on a regulator could come in and say that, hey, you should have been doing this when you really had no capabilities or any way to do it. I don't think it's over, though. The bill is going to the House, and the House has made it very clear that they are not happy with the bill, and there are going to be many many changes to it. So I know a lot of people are terrified that it passed as is in the Senate, but it's long from being over.
But you know what? I gotta say that one of the bright shining points of this of that whole thing was the fact that it's a ginormous bill, right? There's a lot packed in there. It's like 2,700 pages,
Yeah.
and for 3 days, it got held up for this crypto language that was inserted like in the middle of the night, and it stopped everything. And I think that took a lot of people by surprise. I think that was a shock and awe campaign. It was amazing how people responded globally and came down. I don't think they expected to see that at all. And the fact that it just stopped everything in the Senate for 3 days is very telling of where we are in crypto today.
Yeah, and you know, all this is a good thing. I think that a lot of people didn't realize how bipartisan crypto is. There's people on both sides of the aisle that really support innovation and are very much about keeping the U.S. Innovative and competitive on a global stage. So, you know, I think that this is all going to work out at the end of the day. No matter what ends up getting passed, I feel like, you know, we as the U.S. and people that live here and innovate, we'll figure out a way. Whatever ends up happening, we'll come up with a solution to it to keep moving forward.
Yep. So on that note, how important is it for the U.S. overall to have a leadership role in the development of this technology? Because we have people from all over the world that are watching, and they're going to say, hey, you know what? If the U.S. isn't going to do it, forget about it. All these companies are going to move overseas. They're going to go to Portugal. They might go down to Nigeria. They might go to the UK. They might go to Japan, you know, where it's a little bit more friendly to, you know, crypto assets and to blockchain companies. So how critical really then is the U.S.? Is it, you know, we have 330 million people in this country, and you've got, you know, a lot more than that in all other parts of the world that, you know, it is friendly to. So, you know, if you look at it from that perspective, people outside of the country are saying, hey, you know, is the U.S. really that critical? We're sitting here in the U.S. saying, yes, you know, it is, you know, it's important for us, you know, for sure. But the U.S. has always been at the, you know, has a leading seat in the development of a lot of these technologies, not to undermine the contributions from all over the world. But what's your opinion on that?
I agree with you that we're absolutely critical. So even though we're a small part of the world's population, we make up, 40% of all crypto activity? That's significant. One country out of all the countries out there, we make up almost 40% of the activity. And even outside of the crypto markets, just capital markets overall, a lot of countries historically have looked to the U.S. To kind of set those base guidelines and the laws and regulations. And they tend to follow suit closely and be very similar. And we're not there yet. And we've got to get in front of that, because as we look out there, different countries are trying to pass their own crypto regulations. They're drastically different from one another.
Yeah, drastically different. And I have a feeling that, you know, I'm kind of surprised it took this long. Jeff and I talk about this all the time, is the fact that you've got this whole rise up globally is what's bringing really the world together, is this whole crypto movement, right? Whether it's a store of value, whether it has a use case, whether it's solving a real problem out there. You know, one thing is sure, it cannot be stopped. You can't put the genie back in the bottle, and it's going to grow and grow. So as we move into this new frontier, how much of a threat do you see decentralization to the standard centralized world? They've been doing this. I think people in the Senate just realized they got hit with like a 2x4 in the head, and it was like going, oh, wait a minute, this has the potential to eliminate us. You know, there's what's called the DAO, you know, these decentralized autonomous organization. That's we the people right there. So do you think that the fear is kicked into high gear? We hear it from Janet Yellen at the Treasury. We hear it from the Federal Reserve. We hear it from the central bankers all over the world. Do you think there's a little bit of a panic going on because they see this decentralization and DeFi rising up?
Yeah, definitely. You know, human nature. If there's something new and you don't understand it, you don't know what it is, you know, you fear it, right? So it's less about politics and more about just typical human nature, where like, wait, we don't know what that is. I don't want to be near it, or let's kill it, or whatever. I think the fears are rational. I feel like if people take the time and learn and understand it, I think they'd realize that, oh, it's not going to turn everything upside down. It actually could work in conjunction or in parallel to what's out there. We're talking about Ripple earlier, right? Like Ripple's a company where they're looking to disrupt but not destroy existing industries. They're working alongside banking and regulators, et cetera. And there's a path for that even with DeFi, because at the end of the day, you need on and off ramps, right? And so you have to work together. So I don't think there's really, if I was talking to, someone in Congress or a banking executive, like there's nothing to fear here. Like it's going to make things more efficient, which we should all want.
All right. Now, there was a question that was scrolling through here about people in New York, and I think we had talked about it, referenced it a little earlier. Are people in New York able to use the BlockQuake platform, and what goes into that?
Sure. So we're live, but it's not open in New York yet. But we are pursuing the bit license, and we're pretty far along in the process. It's been over a year that we've been working with New York State regulators, DFS. I actually really like them. I like working with them. I'm a former auditor, so like our team just really understood all of their asks, and I'm confident that we're going to receive the bit license and be able to open up in New York before this year is out. But we're going through the end part of the process where like a lot of final requests for paperwork, information, that type of stuff. We've had a ton of conversations around our internal control structure, the way things flow and work, and there hasn't been any major additional questions around that. So, but when you look at the vendors we're working with, like a Fireblocks who's SOC 2 certified, and a number of other vendors who are audited or they provide like those market surveillance services. That's what New York State and a lot of other regulators are looking for. So, in my opinion, it's a matter of time that we get there, but unfortunately not yet.
You had a guess, Antonio, and I'm not just sort of ballpark area. What are we looking at? We looking at another 6 months to a year? Do you think within 6 to 8 months, somewhere in there?
I think less than 6.
Okay.
Like
That's good to know.
yeah, literally it's the end of the paperwork cycle. Like there's just like going through everything like, we need this paperwork. This was missing or something like that. Yeah, so more like I'd say checklist type items.
Gotcha.
A credit report or a bank statement or something's needed. Just stuff that's there. Just have to get it.
Well, that's going to be music to a lot of Jeff and I hear this in the comments a lot. We see it in our chat comments a lot. New Yorkers get very frustrated. So I think that's going to be a welcome thing.
Sorry. I just point out too that with the whole COVID situation and everyone working remote, it did slow things down. Because generally it wouldn't take this long to go through the process, but everyone's been impacted with work and the review process, et cetera. So things are looking like it's picking up, so that's good.
That's great. So there's some more commentary in the chat from XRP Panic, and he says, we want Antonio to run the SEC. And there's some agreement there that you should be running the SEC. But to that point, as you're building out this exchange, what level of communication do you have with the SEC? As you're putting the whole regulatory framework together, and a good understanding of KYC and AML and all of that. What are some of the agencies that you have to communicate with on a regular basis, and what is that interaction like?
Yeah. So first, I appreciate the comment. We do have a great chairman at the SEC, very knowledgeable in this space.
True, all true. Did you know he worked at MIT, by the way?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did.
Okay, just checking.
A lot of people don't realize he's very well versed in crypto. And, I listened and read his speech the other day. And I know some people were scared of it because he used, typical SEC terminology. But, when I read it, I felt like there was an opportunity to essentially like have a sandbox environment with the SEC. I think I think the door is open to actually work alongside them and help get clarity and figure some of this stuff out. But as far as conversations go, so all of our attorneys, they communicate with their local SEC office regularly. So we meet with our attorneys regularly as well, and just try to get a pulse and all that. We are open to meeting regulators and congressional people in person. We actually visited Congress in 2019 and sat with a few offices, including Warren Davidson's office.
Right on. He was on the show, by the way.
Yep. Yeah, I saw the interview
Yeah.
a couple days ago. So it's we want to be engaging, right? Like we want to sit with them. I feel like our approach is very balanced, where we want to comply with existing regulations as much as feasibly possible, while explaining where there might be differences and maybe something needs to be worked in there into some new law or something like that. But I found, at least either directly or through our attorneys, that all the regulators are pretty open-minded and they do want to listen. At the end of the day, this is the one common thing I get back from anyone that we've dealt congressionally or regulator-wise. They don't want to see fraud in the space. They want investor consumer protection, and they want to protect against anti-money laundering, terrorism, that type of stuff. And those are all reasonable requests on their part. And I think we can definitely get there without suffocating the space.
I want to put this comment up here. This is from Doc's Gambling. It's thanks, guys. Good luck, Antonio. God bless. So that was one of the comments he put up there. A bunch of people congratulating you guys on your launch as well. Hey, by the way, I want to bring up one thing you said earlier. You mentioned the word agnostic. You guys, as an exchange, want to be agnostic. We need the government to be agnostic. We don't want picking winners and losers, right? Be open. Let it, like you said, let's go after the fraud and investor protection, but let's not. That's why Jeff and I are not maxis. We're not. Okay, Bitcoin, everything, but everyone picks their favorite tribe or their coin or whatever, and they get behind it. It's great to have favorites. I have favorite stocks too, but the bottom line is, if we're all going to succeed, we have to embrace the space, right? I mean, that's one thing that I think the government would be better served on a bipartisan level, is say like, hey, let's get together and find out how we can make it work, and let's be agnostic.
Yeah, 100%. And I think this is where, a sandbox type approach could work well, where, people have to do registration, submissions, different paperwork, but they're allowed to try different things because they're working closely with the regulator. So that way it's known there is no fraud happening here. There's full disclosure to customers and that type of stuff, right? Having transparency there.
Here's another one. So as we're looking at this space over the past couple of days, and you go on to CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap or what have you, and all of a sudden the crypto space is heated up. It's blowing up. XRP up 13, 14, 15, 16%. Bitcoin up to like 46,000. XRP's at $1, $1, $2, $3, somewhere in there. But all the assets are moving up rapidly. You got Ethereum up over 3,100, getting ready to hit 3,200. What do you attribute this? Is it a short-term bull cycle, long-term bull cycle? What's going on with the market right now?
Yeah, I definitely think longer term we are going to be in a bull phase. We had the Ethereum London fork happen recently. That needed to happen. A lot of people were doubtful of ETH 2.0 and are we going to get gas fees lower? So that I think that was definitely a big move. Obviously, Amazon and other vendors talking about accepting Bitcoin and other cryptos. So we're seeing more adoption. We've seen Germany or one of the countries allowing their different funds to invest in crypto now. So you're seeing more countries or companies allowing more investments into crypto. So this is fundamental, right? And so it's not like prices are running up off of technical analysis. It's like there are real fundamental changes happening where everyone's embracing crypto, and people need to keep in mind that crypto's what, 1.5, 1.7 trillion market cap right now. The entire economy globally, 3 to 500 trillion or whatever the number is, there is plenty of growth potential in space.
Yeah. And then with that, what do you think the resistance of the brick and mortar might be? They're slow to adopt, but yet we see a lot within the big financial institutions that are becoming more open to crypto and potentially investing in it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, brick and mortar, I think they don't understand how they can actually benefit from this. So you take your regular like Macy's or whatever store that you can like go into and shop. If they actually embraced crypto as a form of payment, they're actually going to see their fees reduced for electronic transactions versus what they're dealing with right now. And I don't think a lot of the brick and mortar understand that yet. So it's all our jobs to continue educating people.
Your thoughts? I thought you had a follow up there question there, Jeff.
No,
it's good. Well, Jeff, somebody asked Jeff if he's at the airport. Those are runway lights in the back, and no, it's not. He's actually Jeff is actually at a that's actually the water behind him. Those are docks behind him.
Those are boat docks. Yeah.
If you guys rewind to the beginning, because I know we're live, you ride the beginning, you'll see he's got an incredibly beautiful backdrop there. So Antonio,
it looks like runway lights though.
It does. It's like
I'm looking at now. I'm waiting for the
plane on you.
Water plane. Yeah,
but it's a quiet airport, Jeff. I got to be honest.
Yeah,
very quiet as quiet goes. So Antonio, where did you grow up? Are you born and bred in New York?
I am. I'm a rare native New Yorker, born and bred in Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn.
Lived here my whole life. Currently live up in Queens. We work down by the Wall Street Seaport area where our office is. And I've traveled a lot around the globe. And as much as I love other cities, like I feel like I love New York City more every time. It's and then I can fly from New York City to anywhere on the planet in one flight.
That's true. And also you have all the good concerts too. Every good concert is in New York City. It's like, someone's.
And food.
The food is.
Food is
pizza. I was trying to explain to my daughter, my younger daughter, I was having just pastrami with I was explaining to her, I said, look, you don't know a pastrami on rye unless you're in New York. Forget about it any place else, man. There's some great delis there. The pizza, I mean, the food is fantastic. The Asian food, I love it all, man. It's
amazing.
Yeah, you're gonna make me go get some pastrami or corned beef sandwich after.
Oh, corned beef, good corned beef, big old bread.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bite into that puppy. My gosh. Yeah. Well, I'm also a New Yorker, Antonio.
Yeah.
But I grew up on the other side of the state. Okay. And when I tell people I'm from New York, they go, "Oh," they're thinking like, "Which borough did you grow up?" I was like, "No, I'm like between Niagara Falls and Buffalo." They're like, "This is the response every time."
Canadian side of New York.
I was like, and they go like this every time. They're like, "Oh," and they're like. That's it. You get like like the only part of New York that exists is the city, and everything else is like, wait a minute, you didn't grow up in the city? Wait, which of the 5 boroughs? Okay, see you later. Get out of here. That's usually what I get, So
I think anything outside of like Westchester, then you're no longer in New York anymore.
Yeah, it's pushing. When you're in Poughkeepsie, you're done. You're out. You're no longer in New York anymore.
No, I didn't know you were from. Actually, I have a lot of family in the GTA in Canada, so I've done that drive many times.
Oh wow, yeah. Well, I used to spend a lot of time in, I was right across the border there, so it's like go a lot of time in Toronto and Niagara Falls, Canada. I spent a lot. Plus, that's where my family immigrated down from the Hungarian side of my family. Came down through, and so everyone stayed there except my grandfather. Is like, you know what, I'm going to the U.S. Screw this. So he was the only one, and the rest of the family stayed up there. Like he had a lot of brothers and sisters, and there's like I have family up there, and they have my old surname, which is Chipcar, and it's spelled really weird. So my grandfather shortened it to Chip, and that's how I became. Whoa. That's how I became Chip. Yeah. So
and everybody thinks Chip is his first name, and it's not.
Well, because everyone's been calling me Chip for my whole life, and I just started calling myself Chip. Everybody. So it's like it's just easy, man. You go with what's easier. You're like. You get to a point where you're like, you know who I am. That's cool. I get emails. People are like, "Oh, I've been calling you Chip for the last 7 emails." I'm like, doesn't matter to me. Whatever you want, man. I'm one of those rare individuals that have 2 first names. So
I've been called. Yeah, some people just call people by their last name, so you just never know.
Yeah,
that's the other thing too. All my call me, "Hey, Jeff," so that was it, right? I call Jeff by his last name, but I'm not going to say it here. It's 17 letters long. No, I'm kidding. It's not. It is
Impossible to
not.
pronounce. No.
Impossible to pronounce.
Yeah, it's interesting. My family was from upstate New York as well, in the Syracuse area, so not too far from Buffalo.
Yeah.
And then I was living in Detroit, and so I used to do the drive from through Canada, pretty much like once a month, once every other month, drive back to upstate New York.
Wow.
Did you stop at Tim Hortons? Get a nice
stop
little
at Tim Hortons on the way. You go through London and all that, on the way down. But that was interesting. And Chip lived in Detroit for a little while.
Yeah, it's weird. We live
and now we're both down in South Florida. Yeah, kind of live in very similar places throughout. It's interesting.
Yeah. Is Detroit how you met?
No,
we met this way through the crypto space.
Actually, through a video that we put together for Warren Davidson's office that was presenting to Congress. So they wanted people in the space.
Oh, wow.
Jeff pinged me on one of the chats where a bunch of YouTubers were in and said, "Hey, anybody want to do this?" And I'm like, "Let's do it." And this is on a Friday. I go, "When's it due?" He says, "Monday." So Jeff and I worked through the weekend on it. And that's how we got to know each other and said, "Hey, man, let's combine our efforts." A lot of synergies here. He was doing his channel, I was doing mine. That's where we came together and started on the chain. So we wanted to cover everything blockchain related with DeFi, the whole entire space. And in a way, even though we have our favorites, be a little agnostic. That's a little tip for the U.S. government. Just saying.
That must have been fun. Well, now with the infrastructure bill, everyone in Congress knows about crypto. So
it's about time, right, Antonio? It's about time.
I saw the interview you guys did with Warren, and he did talk about how it was tough getting through to people in Congress to even listen to him. They're all listening now.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, if you were ever to look for a silver lining in something, and a lot of times, negativity or a negative response is better than no response, because if you have a negative response, at least you know where everything stands, and the work you have to do to put into it to turn the negatives into positives. So in this scenario, we know where everybody stands. It's very clear. And now, like you said, all of those in Senate, everybody knows about it. The whole world knows about it at this point. Yeah. And more detail in the crypto and how significant it is. It brought the whole infrastructure bill to a standstill for 3 or 4 days, 5 days even. Yeah. Really, really critical. Now bringing it to Congress, and like you said, with Warren Davidson, they got no movement with a lot of the congressional reps, and the staffers just silence. And there's just so much misunderstanding in that space. Obviously, where they always turn back to with Janet Yellen and Elizabeth Warren and many of the others, kept referencing crypto as being the used for nefarious purpose. And that's basically a tax evasion and bad things. But we know that that's not the case. Now, have you dealt with any of that at all as you're building out this platform? I mean, you're making big changes here, right? You're part of, the future. So you're part of the future, quote unquote, brick and mortar financial space, right? Yeah. And so what kind of things do you run into that could be first and foremost your first reaction could say, hey, that's a negative response to us, but we're making it positive, or people didn't know and you're educating them. What are you running into?
Yeah, so, fun fact, because we're talking about positivity and everything, I'm actually trained as an ontological life coach as well. So that actually plays a big role in the way I think about things. If someone seems resistant to something, I realize okay, I'm not doing a proper enough job of explaining this thing that I'm trying to educate them on. And, I take that approach where I don't assume it's just a no straight up. Let me take some time and really educate them and actually care about their objections and listen to them and make sure I'm addressing that. Whether you're dealing with congressional people, regulators, traditional financial industry professionals, there are a lot of concerns that they have. So, from my perspective, I have to make sure I'm really actively listening to them, and that when I say what I have to say, that I'm actually addressing their concerns. I think that's one of the big steps in all of this. And then you were asking kind of, I guess, from a logistical perspective, how we're handling this. And there's this fear that's out there around money laundering, terrorist activity, et cetera, that you just mentioned. And I used to audit AML stuff like that. That was one of my bread and butter fields, auditing compliance related matters around KYC, AML, and I think we've all talked about it to people where fiat money is still the number one way to launder money.
Right.
It's harder to track. Like I would never tell anyone try to launder money through the blockchain. I'm like everything's traceable. Like you absolutely should not.
Can you tell Senator Warren that? She's unaware of that apparently. So yeah, that's good. So talking about the fiat currency, I mean, look at the banks. I mean, they get fined billions of dollars. And they're like, oh, we'll just slap you on the wrist, pay this fine. And then they're fine, right? I mean, you think about that. Now, if that happened in a crypto space, oh my gosh, holy hell, it comes down. They get all the regulators get on their edge and then they're all excited about it. But it's just been mainstay for banks for a number of years, right? The way they just sort of, I mean, I don't believe they're necessarily, well, there's a couple of them that I'm not going to, some of them have been drug running. Some of them got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, but it's a couple bad actors in the company. It just turns out there's like 100 of them or so, I mean, it just happens, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a great perspective overall on any industry, right? There are always bad actors, right? But,
of course,
I'm of the belief that in most industries, everyone's trying to do the right thing and just trying to be honest. But, it's always that negative story that gets all the attention in the media. So especially with crypto being newer for a lot of people, if something gets hacked or stolen, or someone commits fraud or a scam, like it makes airtime. Right.
So what are you guys gonna, as far as you see, like, let's just go a year in the future. If everything goes well, how many offerings as far as crypto do you guys see you guys launching? Like, say if we like a year ago from now, what do you guys see as far as a potential number?
By next summer, I'm hoping that we're flirting with, if not passing, the 200 mark as far as
wow, that's
number of pairs, number of fiats that we could accept deposits in. I'm hoping we're well past 24 at that point. We really want to go towards the emerging markets. There's a lot of opportunity there. No one's really addressing it. Mm-hmm. And I kind of look at this as a greater mission too, where beyond being a crypto exchange, I think there's an opportunity for us to be a global financial hub and actually bring financial inclusion to a lot of people out there that have no access through some of the stuff we're already working on that we don't talk about publicly. We're hoping that we can bring electronic global financial services to anyone anywhere. So that'll take a few years, obviously, to kind of hit that utopia. But I think we're going to make strides in a lot of what you call like second tier emerging markets where there's decent infrastructure there. There's people that are savvy with crypto and other areas. And they just really need that access extended to them.
Yeah, I like how you use that terminology, financial inclusion, because many talk about banking the unbanked, but it's always more than that. It's more than just banking, because you have to take it to the next level. And I've referenced this a lot on different shows that we've done. But, I look at these emerging markets, developing nations where so many people are not just unbanked, but that means they have no access to any financial resources, meaning no mortgages, no car loans, no business loans, no education loans, no nothing. And they can't, it's almost impossible in those environments to advance to the next level. You definitely can't start a business, if you have no way to get, access. Financial inclusion to me is so significant because that's a starting point. But then you reference something early on where you have people that are using your platform that may have never traded before. It might not just be on crypto, but they've never traded stock before. Yeah. And so you talk about financial inclusion, you're getting people for the first time in their life actually investing in themselves, investing in their futures, investing in their families' futures, and they're doing it through crypto assets. and they're trading on your platform for the first time ever. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, you're talking about global financial inclusion. You know, I'm excited about that. I love that terminology. I love where you're going with that. What do you think realistically, as you start rolling that out on a global scale? You know, what kind of initiatives and timelines does something like that take?
Don't fully know. It's definitely gonna be a lot of work. Uh, I mean, we want to hit a number of major emerging market countries by next summer, right? A lot of Latin countries, a lot of Southeast Asian countries where there's some infrastructure there. So like definitely try to get there first, and then there are probably some other South American, Caribbean countries as well as other Asian countries, African countries that will take more work because either infrastructure financially is not fully there yet, and you've got to participate in that, or education isn't there yet. I was talking to a friend in South America, and he loved the idea that someone from that region or elsewhere can actually come KYC on our platform. They've now got a U.S. financial account essentially through us and through our partnerships, as well as access to crypto.
Nice.
And then
That's huge.
part of the education that he was explaining to me is like, we then have to educate people that tend to sit on cash that you can go to a MoneyGram or a Western Union or whatever and essentially wire that money to your account with us. And now you're kind of plugged into the global financial system at that point. And, they didn't have that option before. In a lot of these countries, my friend was explaining, even if you have all your IDs, to fully KYC, it is not easy to open up a bank account in a lot of places.
That's a good point too. Somebody had this
yeah.
question here. They said, "Will you support all platforms, not just mobile?" Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know.
PC. Are you on the PC based, web browser based?
Yeah, I'll just say,
I think that's probably what they're
here's the web here. So this is, we're looking at it here, but there it is right there. It basically works on all platforms from what I can tell, right?
So it's currently web-based, both desktop and mobile. As long as your browser is a current browser, whatever operating system you're on, it should be fine. I don't know if that question was around mobile apps as well, but I'll just kind of jump into that. We're hoping within 2 to 3 months we can roll out mobile app as well for people that trade that way. But the mobile website is fully functioning. It's very neatly laid out, so that's always an option for people that want to trade on their mobile phone with us. We had a couple of people fully KYC on the mobile website, which I was impressed at. I was like, okay, I've never tried KYCing on a mobile phone just because I feel like it's going to be a bad experience. I tend to go to the laptop.
I've done it one time.
Yeah,
was not easy.
I've done it multiple times on the mobile.
Well, I use the mobile when they say, "Hey, okay, now let's flip to your mobile and now take the pitch." That's a different story. But hey, I wanted to get into, so one of the things that makes it easier too is I think you guys are partnered with Plaid, and obviously Plaid works with basically all banks, so anybody can easily connect their bank and go ahead and make a deposit. The other big key thing, right, is the whole, we talk about liquidity. One of the things that seems to happen over at Coinbase pretty often is that a little mini bull run happens. People try to take off some profits, and they are stuck for days on end. And this is kind of weird. Now they're public, but this happens every time I see the tweets, I hear the people in my DM chats, Jeff hears it, and it's like, and then when it's ready to be able to move, they can't do it. So that's, I think, the importance of the liquidity side of it, and especially the partners you guys are going after to be able to make that happen. I'm not going to say the word instantly, but make that happen quickly, but not put people off for 3 days until it settles back down again.
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the things that the space needs to mature with. A lot of platforms either manage their own liquidity and they're not plugged into anything else, or a number of platforms use like liquidity market making models where you've got to place inventory with someone else. So there's a time delay regarding, okay, we need to move stuff around. We need to actually halt trading because we've got to rebalance everything. Whereas the market makers we're talking to, a lot of them come from traditional equities, FX spaces, where everything's very credit line post-trade settlement related. But to get that relationship, there has to be a level of trust there because credit lines are being extended, and that's where compliance comes in. So when people ask me, like, why is it important? Compliance is important because it opens the door to all these relationships that are needed to create something smooth and functioning. We wouldn't be able to land any of these liquidity partnerships if not for that. Since we've launched, I mean, we're getting reached out to by, I mean, we're still raising capital, so VCs are reaching out to us and liquidity providers are reaching out to us to provide us liquidity. When we talk to some people that have hardcore been in blockchain and crypto for years, and we mentioned that some of the top LPs are reaching out to us, they don't believe us. I'm like, that never happens. I'm like, but it's happening with us.
That's outstanding. Yeah, I think that really shows the character of the company that you're building. You know, when you have, you know, some of the top players, you know, reaching out. Quick question. I think this is, you know, this is really probably out of all the questions, you know, to an exchange, this is probably one of the most significant. This comes from Jim D. And he says, you know, we need a two-way KYC, basically a KYE, know your exchange. And he's basically saying that so many of these crypto exchanges, they have to collect your data. They do all this stuff. There's like a one-way interface. But unlike mainstream investment platforms, there's really no good mechanism to get in touch with anybody. You know, so you end up sending emails, but there's no phone number. There's nobody on the other end, whether it's Coinbase or Uphold or Binance or any of the big players. They're extremely difficult to get through to. And those are the types of, you know, things that we see, whether it's comments on our channel, on different videos. Can you help? Here's what happened to me on this platform. On Twitter, here's what happened to us on this. And it's just endless, you know, where it's hard to get in touch with somebody. You know, we've been fortunate where, you know, we can, you know, get in, you know, you just keep sending emails until finally you reach somebody. How are you guys going to handle that part of it? What does that look like right now? Mainstream adoption, I think, is going to demand a more seamless interaction. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. That's why we actually built things the way we did and worked with our vendors. A lot of our advisors are very plugged in institutionally with wealthy clients, et cetera. And they essentially help tell us how we should build this because we want to attract that audience as well, retail and institutional. So, you know, part of what we're doing is pursuing licenses and registrations with different jurisdictions. You know, we're FinCEN registered. We're currently undergoing a financial audit right now, pursuing our BIT license and MTL from New York, pursuing registrations in other countries that we have fiat support. In a lot of these cases, we then are subject to being audited and reviewed. And I 100% agree with the person asking the question that exchanges should be transparent. They should be known. You should know who owns it. All exchanges should be having different filings with regulatory bodies, should be audited, you know, because we are a financial services provider at the end of the day. So the same rule should apply to us, particularly if we're asking the customer for all of their PII and sensitive information. So it should be a two-way street. And I've often said to people, make sure you look for an exchange that is subjecting themselves to regulators, because we've seen it how many times over the years. Exchanges that are offshore, they're holding onto your assets and they disappear. There is no recourse whatsoever. So, you know, I always tell people just be careful with a lot of offshore unregulated exchanges.
Good point. You can compare the regulator, and the more heavily regulated you are, the better it is for everybody else. And I just wanted to, believe it or not, that was the quickest hour I think I've seen in some time. We're having a good chat there. Yeah, I was like looked up and I was like, wow, it's an hour that's gone by. And I wanted to remind everybody else out there too. I'll drop it in there. But again, guys, check out BlockQuake, take a look at it, see what your thoughts are on it. I'm going to go ahead and drop it in the comments here. There's the URL. You guys can take a look at it. And, you know, there's probably a lot more to unpack. We'll probably have to have you back at some later point as you guys watch your development and see how you guys develop down the road. And I wanted to remind everybody here to please go ahead and like and subscribe. We like to, tickle that YouTube. Sorry about that, Jeff, covering you up there. Like, subscribe, and click click that bell right there. Yeah, and that's it. That's it. So, Jeff, I want to throw it over to you, and then Antonio will give you the final word. But I want to just thank you for coming in here, sharing about a lot of knowledge, especially from the regulatory perspective, which Jeff and I like to talk about a lot here, as our audience knows. And I want to thank you really from the bottom of our hearts for coming in here, and then hang on through the close of the show until after we go live, and we'll finish up. But go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I just wanted to also say thank you for coming on. It was outstanding having this conversation with you. We love talking to builders in this space, especially as you're bringing a platform that's so significant to people on a global scale. Also want to give a huge shout out to everybody that was here tonight, commenting, providing feedback in the chat. One thing that we say here is that although we might be the slowest growing crypto channel in the crypto space, we have by far the smartest and most engaged subscribers and comments that come in the entire crypto space. So thank you all for being here. And we also do stream 6 days a week, and that is Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And for the last word, I'll throw it over to you, Antonio.
Sure. I would say we love feedback. So as people go and explore BlockQuake.com and the exchange, we're always growing. So even as we speak right now, there's dev changes happening that we're pushing. We always want to grow and improve. And I'd say that's one of the things that makes BlockQuake different from a lot of other people in space is we want to hear the feedback. We want to incorporate it. So definitely anyone that's checking it out, let us know what you think. Let's work together to improve the space.
Well said. And on that note, we'll get it, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Antonio, hang out through the close here, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.